Hey there, it's Louis from Savvy Digital, and today we're going to go through a full step-by-step guide of how to set up Google Ads. We're going to go straight from scratch from how to set up the account, going through the different types of campaigns, as well as how to set up a basic search ad. So the first thing you want to do is find Google Ads on Google itself. So you can either click the top link, which is going to be like an ad for Google Ads set up by themselves. We want to go directly to the Google Ads website itself. Sometimes there might be advertisers that come up as the top search result, and they can overcrowd the actual official Google Ads website, but we want to be brought to this page, and from here we can click start now, or we can click sign in. So one thing to mention, Google often has an introductory offer. As you can see here, for example, for my account, it's when you spend £400, you get £400 in ad credit as a result. So that'll be £800 total pounds, and then £400 as free ad credit. So you have to spend that within a certain period of time, and they always do these sort of promotions. Sometimes they just give you like a free £75, for example, but for right now, that seems to be a promotion going on right now. So you'll be brought to this page once you click get started or sign in, something along those lines, and you can see you have what's your main advertising goal. We also have this button at the bottom here which basically says switch to expert mode. So what we're going to do for the sake of this video is we're going to go into expert mode. I'm going to take you step by step all the different options in expert mode, because I find it has a lot more options, it's a lot more granular, and if you want to set up the accounts properly, you have to do a lot of it from scratch and do it in ways that necessarily Google doesn't recommend, because they try to get the most money out of obviously the people that advertise on their platform. So we want to go through and make sure it's set up properly from scratch, and that is the goal for the step-by-step tutorial. So we're going to go into the expert mode, and as you can see here, it looks slightly different. It's not as sort of, beginner friendly, but as I mentioned, we'll go through each thing and we'll make sure that you get it set up right on. So you can see here we have different objectives available for where we want to get to. So depending on the type of store you have, the type of advertisements you want to run. So say you're an e-commerce store, for example, your goal might be sales. If you're sort of a service-based business and you want phone calls, it might be leads. And then you have like blog traffic, things like that. So different options that you can select. For the sake of this video, just to go through all of the different options that we have at hand, we're going to click create a campaign without a goals guidance. So obviously this will basically set up where we can apply any sort of setup and preference, and this won't restrict you from any of the other options. You can actually change it later on, so anything we do now can be changed later on. We'll go through maybe in another video how to do so, but for now we're going to select this as it gives us the most options. So if you're following along, you can select this as well, and I'll show you how to kind of navigate each thing. So you can see here, we then have an option for the campaign type. So different campaign types allow you to advertise in different ways on Google's platform. So the first and most common one that you'll see is Google search. So Google search ads are basically whenever you search on Google. So if we type in like cars near me, you can see here, for example, you'll see that there'll be multiple advertisements that will come up on the top search results. So you'll see 3 or 4 search results that come up here, and you can see this little thing that says ad there. So in terms of the most common ways that people tend to advertise on Google, it tends to be through these search ads, and then you have a few different options depending on what you want to achieve. But like I mentioned, for service-based businesses or e-commerce stores, we do see that quite often. So to go through a few of the other options that they do have available, you have Performance Max, you have Display. So that'd be sort of running, images across the web. So when you're on an affiliate website of Google's, they'll show a sort of image for you to display your advertisements there. You then have video, a few other options as well. So you can actually advertise on YouTube as it is an affiliate of Google itself, and it's under their Alphabet brand. And you can see here you have shopping ads as well. So when you type in, let's say caps for sale or new shoes, it will then show you those little images that you see at the top of Google results, and then you'll show you the price and things like that. So you have many different options depending on whether your business is e-commerce or a local business like we see here, for example. And they do a little bit of a simple explanation at the bottom of each of the options to explain what is best used for and how you can achieve what you want with each. But like I said, for the main premise of this video, we're going to go through setting up a search ad, so a Google search ad. So we're going to click on search here. And then this will bring us up to this option here, which basically says what we really want to get from the campaign. So it's trying to deduce exactly what we want to get from the campaign in terms of whether it's leads in the form of phone calls, whether we just want website visits. If it's a blog, for example, we just want to get eyes on the website, or we want app downloads, because you can actually advertise apps. So you have a new app that's developed or a game, you can lead directly people to a page or allow them to install it. For now, we're going to go ahead and we're going to go through website visits. And then here, for example, you would put in the website that you will be advertising. For the case of this video, I'm going to use the website of our digital marketing agency. So you can see here we've got savvydigital.co.uk, and we're going to click continue. So from there you can see we've got the basics, so we've got search at the top, and then we can have an option to select the campaign name. So with the campaign name, I like to go by sort of a naming convention. So for the sake of this video, I haven't got one in particular, but something that I'll go ahead with saying is, say I want to get phone calls, or this one actually be website visits. So I'll just put like traffic, and then I'll put like search, and then I can put which location that I'm planning to do it. So let's say United Kingdom. And that's sort of the naming convention I'll go by. So I try to give some details within the campaign name. The main things you really want to do, because the way that the campaigns work from the highest level is that you can only have one type of campaign basically on each campaign. So you can only have a search campaign. You can't have both a search and like a local campaign in one campaign. You have to have two separate campaigns to have different types of advertisements. So in this case, because it's going to be search, I'm going to put search in there. Because we're going for website traffic, we're going to put traffic in there. So like I said, if we were going to set up a campaign for display ads, for example, where we actually want to get you know, like say app installations, we could put like display app installations, something like that. So for now, I'm going to put location, type of campaign, as well as what we want to achieve from it. So next thing we have here is networks. So networks is a very interesting theory, something that a lot of people don't tend to understand very well. And it's one of the most common issues that people kind of come up against when they actually do set up their campaign for the first time, because they can waste a lot of money in these search networks if they don't know what they're doing. So to briefly go over what each search network is basically achieving here. So like it says here, you have the search network, which is the first option here, and it says include the Google search partners. So I tend to take this off, and the reason I do that is because when I'm advertising, especially say for example I'm doing it for a client and I'm advertising for a local service-based business, when it includes the Google search partners, that means when someone searches something on an affiliate website of Google's, your result will come up. The reason I don't like doing that is because obviously when I'm advertising a search campaign on Google, I want people to be typing in that search into Google and Google only, because they have a higher purchase intent. They have higher intent to work with that service that I'm promoting. And when you include it on Google Search Partners, it could show up on a blog website or something else completely unrelated that's affiliated with Google. And as I mentioned, that will not have as high search intent, because it will come up with you know, different results that are unrelated, and you know, people aren't generally looking for an immediate service as of there. For e-commerce websites and other websites, depending on what you want to achieve, if it's okay that it doesn't have to have the huge, you know, search intent, so you want increased brand awareness or something along those lines, that's completely fine. But as I mentioned, for service-based businesses and also a lot of e-commerce businesses, I like to have it on Google only, so I can narrow down the bidding and make sure that whoever's actually pulling up my results is coming through Google search only. The next thing we have here is the display network. Similarly to the search network, it will be included within the Google display network if you have this tabbed on. And the issue with that, as I mentioned again, it will show up on affiliate websites, and basically when it says the display network, they'll have a little box on the side of different websites that will say your ad and have that pop up. So obviously again, that is an issue. If you want people with high search intent, people at the end of their buyer life cycle, and they want to be searching for a specific product, especially if it's a long tail keyword, you know, say there's looking for a specific model of a power tool or something, it will completely throw them through a loop. And like I mentioned, it will show up on websites, and you might get clicks that you didn't want to get, which ends up wasting your ad budget. So once we've selected that, so like I said, for default, most of the time I tend to leave these off. We can click on show more settings here, and you can see you can set the start and end dates for your advertising campaigns. Sometimes this might be preferable because you might, you know, set the Google ad campaigns and kind of forget about it, and it might eat away through your budget. So if you want to test something for 7 days or a month, for example, sometimes it can be good to set an end date there. We then have the campaign URL options. So this is if you have a separate final URL suffix and you have a tracking template that's separate for the conversions. We then have the dynamic search ad settings. So again, you can enter the domain to change some details here, and you can see it has DSA outlined here, which is the dynamic search ads. So as I mentioned, it targets the relevant searches automatically based on your website, and then uses the headlines automatically customized to people's actual searches. So what it's saying is basically it will automate and uses AI to create its own ads that kind of fit in line with the searches that your typical, prospects or customers might be searching. I tend to avoid doing this because I like to have the granularity and the split testing that comes with setting up my own ads. We then have the ad schedule. So this is where you can adjust when you actually do show your ads. So if you have a specific time of day of people that you're trying to target, this is where you would do that. But for the case of this, we're just going to leave it as all days. So next we have the targeting and the audience segments. So what this allows you to do is actually target a specific area or location, or multiple areas and locations. So if you operate in one area and you won't only want business, say within London or within Washington, if you're in the US, for example, you can actually set it up here where you can narrow down exactly the city, the province that you want to target if you're a local business. If you're a national business, you can leave this to one country, or if you're worldwide, you can, open this up to every country, all countries and territories as it mentions here. So if you wanted to enter specific locations, you can type in the postcodes, the zip codes, the countries, the cities here, or you can use advanced search to actually set up a radius. So you can set up an area and then put, say, 30 miles around that point. So for now, we're just going to leave it as United Kingdom, which is a country that I'm currently in. And you can see here, in terms of the other options, again, this is something that can absolutely burn through your ad budget if you're not careful. And this is the target and exclude options for locations. So with the target option, I always put it to the second one. The reason for this is the first option where it says presence or interest. Basically what this means, especially if you're a local based business, this is your worst enemy. And we've seen some Google representatives that have helped set up people's ads in the past for clients of mine use this and put this on for a local based business, and it's completely the wrong thing to do. So the reason for this is because it's going to bring up people that are regularly in or shown interest in the targeted locations. So you can see here it's recommended, and obviously this is an issue because if it's shown you people that have, or shown your ads to people that have been in your targeted locations, say United Kingdom for example, and they're located in the US and you're a local based business, you're going to be wasting your ad budget on clicks on people that are outside your country. So say, for example, you're within the US and you have this a fiction for the United Kingdom, you're really interested in what's going on there, and you have a lot of Google searches, and your ad history tends to be related to stuff in the United Kingdom, even though you're not located in there. Google's AI might pick it up as someone that's interested in that location heavily, and that might have suggestion to show your ads to them. Obviously, if you're a local store or you're a service that is only provided to the United Kingdom, you're going to be wasting your ad budget on people outside the country. That's the reason I always tend to go for presence, which is people within your targeted locations. If you wanted to target the entire world, you can put all countries and territories and again put presence on, use that second option. I would heavily advise against having interest selected. Again, with search interest as the third option, this will just show you people searching for your targeted location. So it won't even be people located in there, which again poses an issue. The only times I would ever see this as being effective is, say, for example, you're running ads for a hotel or an Airbnb business, and people aren't necessarily in the location that you're targeting, but you do want to target that location as an interest point. So if you're searching for somewhere to stay in Spain, for example, and you're going to be traveling there soon, you won't necessarily be located in Spain yet, but you definitely have an interest in it. So that's the only time that I would see the search interest coming in handy. But for most local businesses and e-commerce businesses that operate in one country or territory, presence is your best bet. Again, for exclude, this is where you'll basically put the option of presence or interest, because again, you'll exclude people that have shown interest in the location. Like I said, this is mainly if you do put in a specific exclusion for location. So if you're targeting an entire country like United Kingdom and you want to exclude one region of the United Kingdom, so a city or a country for example, you can actually put an exclusion for that country. So say I only wanted to target England and Scotland, I didn't want Wales to be included, I'd put an exclusion of Wales and then put United Kingdom as a target. So it actually allows you to have many different options to go along with that. So for languages, again, it probably applies the same way you'd probably expect it to. So these are basically allows you to narrow down the language that the person you're advertising to speaks, or what they search for regularly on Google. So like I said, this will allow you to actually narrow it down to people that fit with dialect and fit with the language that they speak in terms of the ads that you show. So this is most likely going to default to the country that you're currently in. In this case, it'll be English for me as I'm in the United Kingdom. But we can adjust that if we want to target, different demographics. In terms of audience segments is basically a way to either target or observe the habits of the people that tend to see your ads. So basically what it allows you to do is detail the demographics of a person as well as the interest that they have in the sort of markets that they're in. It allows you to either observe the demographics and the audiences that your ads are being shown to and the results in terms of who clicks on it, who converts and things like that, or you can actually narrow it down to those specific interests and those demographics through targeting. So most commonly, as it mentions here, we see observation is ticked on because what it allows you to do is not narrow it down to those specific things and allows you to actually observe the most common groups that tend to see your ads and convert better. And the reason that's important is observation, especially at the start of your Google Ads journey, is because it allows you to gather data about your audience. Because a lot of times people can have an assumption of who is looking for their person, their buyer persona, their perfect customer, but sometimes it actually fits outside the range. So they might be narrowing themselves down to an audience that, is basically restricting them to, higher cost per click or bad conversions, or basically just restricting their audience as a whole. So if you want to be able to scale, observation is the best way to go. And if your cost per clicks and, your conversions are bad in the future, at least with observation, you have a lot of data to analyze and, narrow it down from there. So I'd recommend having observation at the start. From budget, you can see here, this is basically where you'll set your daily budget for the campaign. So you can set this to £10, for example, and then it will give you some sort of backing in terms of what you should increase it to, depending on sort of the advertisements you're doing. And also on the next page, it will give us sort of an estimation of what you can get for your money. So the next thing we're going to talk about here is bidding. So you can see here, this is one of the most important parts of a Google campaign. So this is on the campaign level, and this is where you can actually focus on where your money goes. So we have some select options here. You have conversions, conversion values, you have clicks, you have impression share. To go through what each thing is, so conversions will be basically when someone does the target action that you put and set up and you're tracking. So that might be phone calls, for example, a sale, something along those lines. Conversion value will be the value of the conversions that you'll set up later on. So let's say the average customer comes out to £50 when they actually do phone in. You can set up the conversion value to be £50 and it can aim to give you sort of a return on investment based on the advertising spend compared to the conversion value. So you can see here they're currently grayed out, meaning that we can't select them, and the reason for that is we haven't set up conversion tracking. So we're going to leave that off for now, and we can show you in another video a full in-depth guide of how to set up conversion tracking and how to get that all ready for you with Google Analytics. But for now, we're going to select clicks. So this final option is impression share, and what impression share does is, as it mentions here, it's the percentage of impressions that your ads receive compared to the total number of impressions that your ads could get. So what that's saying is basically with the impression share, it's how often your ads will show up to your target audience, and basically compared to competitors, it will give you a percentage of how often that is compared to what they're bidding as well. So it could be an interesting metric, especially for whether you want to get sort of brand awareness and things like that. Is how often you'll show up and how dominant you are within the market. But for clicks, what we're going to do is select that, and what that'll do is target just getting clicks, plain and simple, getting eyes on the website. So from here, you can actually set a maximum cost per click bid limit. And what this allows you to do is narrow down how much you want to pay for the CPC, which is the cost per click. So I'll put a limit on that amount. And this can be good to set in the first place. If you've done your keyword research, you know exactly how much you're expecting to pay per click. But there's a lot of sort of different variables that come with the quality score, which will go in another video. It's a way of actually reducing your cost per click based on the relevancy of your ads and your landing pages. But with the cost per click as a whole, there's so many different variables. For now, I'm going to leave that off and kind of get an idea and optimize it as we go along with this campaign. So right off the bat, I would set that and leave that alone. So we can kind of get an idea, a ballpark figure of what we're expecting to pay. But if you think it can get out of control and you've done your research, you feel free to put that on and test it with that. Last thing we'll look at here is ad extensions. So ad extensions, as it mentions here, gets you a 15% higher click-through rate, meaning how often people actually click on your ads when they're shown. And this can be shown by actually adding additional information on your ads about your websites and your offerings. So we have the three main extensions here. We have site links, we have call out extensions, and we have call extensions. And then we have some further extensions here on the ad extensions option. So I recommend always when setting up Google Ads to put as many extensions as you can that are relevant to your ads. And I would recommend at least putting 3 extensions on there if possible. So the first one here is talking about site linking extensions. So these are basically just additional information about your business as a whole. So this can be offerings, it can be, sort of the USPs, the unique selling points of your business that puts you apart from your competitors. And it's always something you want to put in, because when you search up an ad, So car near me, for example, as you can see, we have an example of extensions here. So we have some service extensions here. We have some site link extensions as well as the call out extensions. So you have these additional real estate options here that actually just open up your ad and show more of it off. So it feels like a waste to always have none there. So you can see here, for example, this ad is considerably smaller. Sometimes it doesn't show you the extensions if you're too far down, but you can see here this this advertisement without an extension is considerably smaller than the ones at the top, which have these additional links and opens up the real estate of your ad. So it's always worthwhile having on, and you should always aim to have at least 3 because it allows you to get more bang for your buck and get more eyes to your advertisement. So call out extensions, again, like I mentioned, this is going to be more for the services that you offer. So you can actually have it where it specifies the type of call outs that you can go ahead with. And then finally, we have the call extensions here, which allows you to put your phone number. So when someone Google searches it, they can see your phone number and click on that, say on mobile, for example, and give you a ring straight away. So as I mentioned, if you're a service-based business, this is incredibly effective. Or say you're even a local store, it allows people, to get on the phone, and it increases their intent to visit you and purchase your product. So going through the other extensions, we can see you have structured snippet, app extension, we have lead form, so that's kind of like filling out a lead form. We have the app extension, which allows you to actually present the app that they can install if you're going through app installations. We can see promotions, so if you have a Black Friday sale, you can actually mention how much you've got off or how much you have off per product. We have price extensions where you can show the actual price as well as location as well. And location is key as well for local based businesses because it can show your audience exactly where you're located. So we're going to click save and continue, and we're going to proceed to the next screen where we can actually go ahead and set up the advertisement as well as see the sort of estimations of how much we will get for our money. So you can see here we've got the £12 a day budget, and it says here that we're going to get an average cost per click of 1 penny, and that will equate to 1,355 clicks a day. So obviously that's very broad because we can see the keywords that we have set up here are completely unrelated to what we want to present. So you can see it's just put in a generic load of keywords based on our website and what information's on there. Because our website is focused on Google advertisements and it's a Google Ads management agency, it's given us loads of keywords that are related to that, and that's obviously given us a low cost per click based on that information. But something to understand about keywords: the better the keywords are, the better your ads can perform. That's basically it. That's the most important thing about it. And before I'd ever set up ads, I would go ahead and do your keyword research so you know exactly who your buyer personas are, what they're searching for, who they are, and exactly what they are typing into Google. So if we take my company, for example, and I'm looking for a new client and I want to get people that are basically looking for Google Ads Management, I would go ahead and type in Google Ads Management, for example, because that's exactly what I'd expect them to be searching into Google when they're looking for a company and agency like mine. So things to actually understand about keywords: there's 3 different type of keyword match types, and what keyword match types are is how narrow the keyword will be to their search intent and how related any other keyword or search queries will be kind of put in the same bucket as when they're searching on Google. So basically what that means is we have the 3 types here. So we have broad match, we have phrase match, and then we have exact match. Starting from the top, broad match is basically going to give you a broad sort of search queries that are involved and related to the keywords that you selected here. So for example, if we type in Google Ads Management, someone that types in, Amazon Ads Management or something like that, that has kind of, a similar sort of understanding of what is interested in terms of the keywords in their search query, it will include a wide sort of range of keywords and search queries that are related to what we've put in here. With phrase match, it's going to give us a similar phrase, so it's going to give us as close to this phrase as possible. It's going to use sort of the intent of the phrase, and it's going to use any sort of words that mean sort of the same thing or have the same suggestion in terms of what they're looking for. So broad, as it mentions in the name, it's a lot broader. Phrase match is going to match it to the phrase and the search intent of that phrase. And then finally, we have exact match. What exact match does now, there was an update recently in 2022, as previously it would be exactly the same match as what the keyword is, and that'll be a long tail keyword, for example. It will show it only to the people that have searched pretty much exactly what they put in here, bar a few typos. And then with the new exact match, what they've changed it to is actually using alternative words, so synonyms that mean the same thing, they will now include here. So say Google Ads Management, they might say Google Advertisements Management and say that is an exact match, because that is basically sort of an acronym, or a shortened version, a synonym of advertisements, so it will show it to that audience. So the way you actually toggle different ones, so you want to put in broad match, you will leave it as just how it appears here, so it will just be whatever. So capitalization doesn't matter either, because it will just show it to all different types of searches regardless of the capitalization, and we'll just leave it without any prefixes or suffixes. If we wanted to make it phrase match, what we do is we would surround it in a parenthesis. So you can see here, I'm going to put in some speech marks here and around the Google Ads Management, and that will turn it into a phrase match. And as you can see here, our cost per click has gone higher because it's reduced the search queries that will be open up to. Finally, for exact match, we're going to put in these square brackets here, and then as you can see, we can expect this to probably increase it again, because you can see we only get 1 click per day, because again, it's further narrowed it down to a closer match, an exact match of what this keyword is. So we can see here it will be £12.81 cost per click on average for this keyword, because that's currently what it is going for in terms of the bids. So moving back up to the top of the page, we skipped a couple bits here. So ad group type, you can see you've got standard and you have dynamic. I always leave this as standards, as again, dynamic includes more of Google's AI, and without any adequate data, if we're setting up from scratch, we don't really know what to expect. So it's regardless, we want to put it as standard from the get-go. So in terms of the ad group name, this is where we would name the ad group, and this will be kind of where we want to narrow down the keywords that we're targeting. So the way I like to set up my ad groups is I always have separate ad groups with very closely themed keywords, and the way I would go about that is I would relate them to the services I offer, the brand, or generic search queries that we could expect our buyer persona or customer to be searching for. So in this case, I offered Google Ads Management, I also offered Amazon PPC Management, and I also offered, let's say, web design. I would set up 3 different ad groups under the same campaign, and then have tightly worded keywords or tightly themed keywords to specify those exact search intents. So for the website design one, I would say website designers, website design agency, and have that all under one ad group. I'd then have, Google Ads Management under the Google Ads one, and then Amazon PPC Management, I'd go for keywords like Amazon PPC Management, Amazon PPC Agency, and all those things, and have them separate so I can have separate ads for them specifically and actually control what goes through them. So for this one, I'm going to put Google Ads as the ad group name, so I know exactly what the intent is there, and I'll leave it there. We can then add additional ad groups at the bottom if we wanted to add all the services or the brands that we offer. And then finally, once we click save and continue, we'll be presented to a page where we can actually set up the ad. So moving from top to left, we can see the ad group. So top left, we'll move all the way down. You can see the ad group in the top corner here. So this is the name of it. We then have the keywords that we're targeting. And then we have some details about the ad strength, as well as some recommendations and ideas of what we could include. So in terms of the ad strength, I wouldn't pay too much attention to it, because again, this is based on sort of Google's algorithm of what they think it makes a good ad, and that's just as many details and as unique as possible. As it mentions here, they want unique details in the headlines and descriptions. But I tend to see, some of my best performing ads have an ad strength of sort of average, and sometimes even poor in some occasions, because I really want to narrow down what their headlines and descriptions are. And especially for split testing, having multiple ads with very specific changes being tested on a monthly basis, it might not be the best in sort of Google's eyes in terms of the ad strength. So don't worry about this too much, but I tend to at least go for average where possible. So for the final URL, this is going to be the landing page you want people to go to. So as you can see here, I currently have savvydigital.co.uk, which is my homepage. But say, for example, I was advertising the services that we offered specifically, and I wanted people to go straight to the services page so we can see exactly what we offer, and we had a contact form on there. I would then put in the specific URL page, the URL of the page I want them to go to, say the services one, and I put it in here. So we can put in /services, for example, and that will lead them to the relevant landing page. So as I mentioned before, it's very important to have a relevant landing page to the ad that you have, because it will affect your quality score, and quality score is one of the most important factors when it comes to how much you'll bid on the ads. So I'd very much advise having separate landing pages for each ad that you run, because you want people to get to the right place. Also, as well as when it actually comes to them in terms of their conversion rates, we know that people, when they actually click on the ads themselves, they want to be brought exactly to the page they want, not around the houses. We want them to get exactly to where they want, so they can execute, you know, they can buy whatever you're trying to sell, or they can contact you straight away rather than going to the homepage and having to click through. Because the more time they're on their website, and the more time they're on your website, should I say, the more opportunity they have to click off. So I'll direct them to exactly where they need to go. So the display path, this is where it's actually going to appear on the ad itself. So I usually just put in something that goes exactly with what I'm offering. So Google, let's say Google ads, and then on the second path I put like management, and then you can see here it appears and says Google Ads Management within the URL. And this is great because it actually gives, you know, a quick look at what they're actually going to be clicking on. And, you know, you think it's quite an irrelevant thing because it's so little, but some people, you know, do actually look at this. And obviously, if it makes a difference between one cell, it's worth setting up correctly. So next we have the headlines. So you can see here, it lets you put in up to 15 headlines. And with these responsive search ads, so they recently got rid of the expansive search ads, and they now have responsive search ads, which means they automatically rotate your headlines and descriptions. So they give you the best performing ads based on their data. And this allows you to actually put in different headlines and allow you to test different ad copy and see which results come out on top. So you can put up to 15 headlines. I always advise having, you know, sort of your brand name in there, as well as a strong call to action or something that kind of, you know, is a tearjerker, evokes emotion to really get people to click on your ads. I always capitalize them in camel case, meaning the first sort of letter of each word is in capitalization. The reason for that is because I just think it looks more professional, and for most businesses that's important, especially service-based businesses, and I think it just really stands out a bit better. Some people can even put it in all lowercase because that stands out completely differently to all the other ads that you see on a page. For example, most of them tend to be in camel case, so you're kind of fitting in with the crowd. But if you want to use lowercase, you might stand out, but sometimes I think that can look slightly unprofessional. So this is usually the sort of safest way I seem to go with it. So you can put in these details here. As I mentioned, I tend to put in, you know, a strong call to action like call now or shop here or 50% off, you know, something that's really saying what you want the audience to do when they click on your ads, as well as something that evokes emotion, you know, something a bit different like you really need this, or, you know, just something that kind of shock value or really gets a viewer's attention. As well as sometimes the brand name included. So if you have a really strong brand presence, you're very like recognized in your area, putting in your brand name that people recognize is sometimes a good route to go down. So as I mentioned here, is put some automated ones in. I'm not going to give any examples in this video. We'll go for a separate video on how to actually set up the ad copy here and, you know, the top performing ad copy that I've seen, but for now I'm going to leave it as it is. We do also have this option here to pin the headlines, so you can see here you can show them in different positions or show them in any position with this unpinned option. So I'm going to leave it as unpinned for now, but say for example you wanted free Google Ads audit to show up in position 1 only, you can select that, and that will mean that only in position 1 you'll see the free Google Ads audit option here, and it gives you a bit of a display here, and you can click along to show the different examples of how it look. You can see the previews here of how it look on mobile and computer as well. And finally, if we look at the bottom of the page, you can see that we have the descriptions. So this is where you can put up to 90 characters, and this will be the copy that shows up at the bottom. So this is where I would include sort of, you know, again, the unique selling points of your business, what puts you apart from your competitors, and really any strong information that you always want to shout out to your customers. It's sort of like your elevator pitch. It's what gets you through the door and gets that rapport going. And again, as I mentioned, it is small text, which some people do read through that, and it's very important for the overall performance of the ad itself. Finally, we then have another option to putting the tracking template if it's separate to your conversion tracking that you would set up, and then you can click save and continue and move on. So that will be sort of the prefix of how to actually set up the ad from scratch. As you can see here, it's going to go through the billing detail, it's going to go through you know, the introductory offer as well, and then once we've submitted that, we can go ahead and go through the details. So it won't let me go through submitted it, so I'm not going to submit that for now, but I'll show you exactly how it will look. Once you've set up the billing for your Google Ads campaign and for your new Google Ads account, you'll then be presented with a completion message, and then it will take you to the overview page. So as you can see here, we're brought back to the page. You can see it's completely fresh. If we go to campaigns on the left side here, we can see the new campaign with the budget that we selected here, and then we can go over to ads and we can see the ads that we set up here, and you can see that it's currently pending and under review. So that means that Google will take the time to review the ad copy, look at everything to do with the ad itself. Once it's approved, you'll get underway and start spending your ad budget to get some of those leads coming through. So that's basically a step-by-step guide of how to do everything when it comes to setting up the account and setting up a basic search ad and the best practices to do so. Thanks for watching. If you're looking to improve your Google Ads campaign further, make sure you click on the next video that's on the screen now, where we'll go through more ways that you can improve your return on ad spend.